farmers and aspiring farmers, thank you for tuning in to yet another informative edition of your program. This is Agricultural New Directions Agribusiness in support of Vision 2030, where we discuss everything agriculture in our industry here in Zimbabwe. We look at business fundamentals, we look at production economics, to mention but a few here in Zimbabwe. Now, in this very episode, we are going to be looking at Boran cattle production here in Zimbabwe, and I have taken the liberty of inviting Mr. Collin Langton of Langton Company, who is here in Mashonaland, Western Triloni, where he is doing his various enterprises, including cattle production. Collin, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Wadzi. Thank you for having me on the show. I'll introduce I'm Collin Langton. As been said, I've been a farmer, a career farmer. I studied BSc Agriculture, came back to farming and worked for some guys before I went on my own. The cattle, the Boran cattle, we see here, these are our bulls that are coming for the two sales, the National Bull Sale and the Zimbabwe Boran Breeders Sale, coming up at the end of the month. On the 1st of July is the one. So these are our bulls that are ready. The reason why I chose Boran, it's an African breed, indigenous breed. They're hardy, they're very productive, and so when you have those traits, adaptability, hardiness, fertility, you get longevity as a result. The other traits, the productive traits, the meat traits, are also important, but without the foundation of hardiness and adaptability, you go nowhere. You need those as starting points, and those are your efficient money-making traits. And that's the reason why we chose the Boran. The Boran breeders have been in Africa for more than 1,000 years, came across the east coast of Africa from Asia, and it's been naturalized. So they're used to our climate, they're used to our diseases, and so we do believe, and we have seen that they can produce beef very efficiently.
Thank you so much, Collin. As we move right along, you are a farmer, you've been in this business for quite some time, you even studied agriculture, which is highly commendable. You know what you're doing. Now, Collin, can you talk to our Zimbabwean farmers here in terms of the characteristics or those traits that they need to look at if they are considering getting into Boran production?
Okay, I also do all the inspections for the breed. I'm the senior inspector, and we go around before registration. So the inspection points, the main points, when you start at an animal, you start at the head. You look at the head there should have width between the eyes. That width between the eyes shows you the animal has width throughout the body, the capacity. So you start there. If it's a female animal, it should show femininity. If it's a male animal, it should display masculinity. Those traits are very, if it shows you the animal's in hormonal balance. So you start at the head. When you go to the neck, if we're going back through the animal, then the neck is very thick on a bull, showing masculinity again, and you obviously come with the hump. And then, then you come to the hump and the legs and feet. Obviously, these animals need to go out and eat. They need to walk. They need to reproduce. So they need to be very efficient, and that's part of the adaptability of being indigenous animals. They've grown up with those traits. And then we get to the middle portion here. Here, the middle portion, you want a good rumen, wide capacity. You see the rumen here must be huge. That's a very good factor that's common in the Boran. Why? They are not built to eat grain. They're built to survive on the grass. Okay. So that's the factory. That's where they get their. That's how the more they can take in, especially in the winter when times are tough. The more capacity they can have, the better they can survive the winter.
Okay.
And then we get on to the loin. The loin up top here, that's the other tray, shows you width, strong back, and then lastly the legs, the working end, the testes, and the tail, a good long tail.
Thank you so much, Collin. That was very detailed. You are explaining what we need to look at physically on the cattle that we are acquiring as Zimbabwean farmers. Now, as we round off this segment, how are your cattle reared? What are those activities, or those are maybe some of the things that you use in terms of maybe supplements, feed, chemicals? What do you look at when you're producing your cattle?
We try and keep it profitable. So in other words, as much as possible on the veld, as much as possible off the grass, to make sure that our bottom line is good. So we graze them. On this place we have night camps, trying to keep it as profitable as possible. Beef off the veld. So in Zimbabwe we have a short growing season for the grass and a long dry season. That dry season is what puts a lot of pressure on our animals. they drop a lot of weight, and it's another good characteristic of the Boran. It does have ability to pick up weight quick, because remember, body condition, fat, is what drives the animals to reproduce if they have excess fat. So we try, yeah, we do them, we wean early. We wean early as 5 months, and then we raise the weaners. It's cheaper to raise the weaners off the mother, and then we try and hold the condition for the mothers.
Thank you so much, Collin. That was very detailed, and I like that you can tell that these bulls are very healthy and you are taking care of them properly, given that they are calm and they are not very hostile. Thank you so much for that.
Okay, thank you.
There you had it, viewers. We're looking at Boran cattle production with Collin Langton here in Trelawney. On that note, we've come to the end of the first segment. We're going to go on a short commercial break. We'll be right back with this and more in the second segment. Stay tuned. Thank you, Zimbabwe, for staying tuned to Agricultural New Directions, Agribusiness, in support of Vision 2030. Today, I am standing next to Head Top Sire. We are in Trelawney, here at Langton Company, that is being managed and owned by Collin Langton and Mandy Langton. Now, viewers, we encourage you to be a part of these conversations. Feel free to get in touch with the producer, Wadzanai Manyore. It's on 0772-807-506. Alternatively, you can like our Facebook page, Agribusiness with Wadzanai. Make a follow-up on this episode and more in case you miss it on the TV. It's on YouTube, Agribusiness with Wadzanai. We are also now available on Twitter, where most of these discussions take place. Our timeline is at Agribusiness 110. Stay tuned. Now, Collin, behind us there is a herd that is moving past us. In a snippet in brief, can you tell us and talk to us in terms of this herd?
Okay, yes, this herd that's moving behind is all the females that are on sale at the Zimbabwe Boran sale, 1st of July. They'll be coming on sale. You can see them coming past. There's a range, pregnant females, young heifers, everything that the people want, and people are always always demanding heifers for sale. So we have a big range in sizes and in pregnant, different, like I say, the old ones are all pregnant, and there's some cows with calves at foot. There's some commercial heifers for our Boran extravaganza that we are having over 2 days. In fact, the 30th of June and the 1st of July.
Okay, thank you so much, Collin. Now, can you talk about those characteristics that are unique, that make the Boran unique, and those that are desirable, that led you to want to get into Boran breeding?
Okay, the Boran is dubbed God's gift to cattlemen. That's what it was dubbed in South Africa. Why? It has a very unique genotype, The genetics are basically 64% Zebu, the Bos Indicus, that came across from Asia, and then 24% European Bos Taurus, and then after that there's 12% of Sanga, or local indigenous African Bos Taurus breeds. That is the makeup. So why is it unique? Because it's made up of 3 parts. It's like a composite. It crosses so well with all other breeds because it has a portion of its own genetic makeup that's not related. So for maximum hybrid vigor, we need unrelated genes to be crossed, as you know. So if you can cross a Boran with a Brahmin, because it has those other gene pool, it's only 60% the same as the Brahmin, and you can cross it with all the other breeds because of that unique genotype.
Okay, thank you so much, Langton. Thank you so much, Langton, once again for affording us this opportunity. Now, can we talk about how do you select a breeding stock? In case we are talking to that farmer who is new into the business, your word of advice in terms of selection of a breeding stock.
Okay, as I mentioned before, there are the various points on the animal that you look at the actual conformation. But anyway, after the conformation, the animal can look okay, but it's like a wife. You can have a beautiful wife, but you still got to cook. Yes. So if the animal still got to produce, you want animals that are going to produce on time, keep producing every year, do that without hassle. We don't want to be pulling calves, you don't want to be hassling and doing a lot of management. There must be easy care, easy free animals, and that's where the indigenous breeds and the African breeds are so special. They do it well because they've adapted to that. They've had minimum interference on the veterinary side for many years. So that's why I like myself, I said we do Boran, we do Mashona Angoni. And the other thing, if you can see the herdsman in the background, then there's no paddocks here. Okay. We are herding every day. The animals are confined at night. That means they're locked up. So the animals need to be adapted to that. Some breeds cannot handle that. So the African breeds have grown up, evolved for that situation. So that's another good point of the Boran, the Mashona, Angoni, our own breeds that are indigenous to Africa. How we select for management, yeah, we select on, basically we select on adaptability. Anything that is sick, that hassles us, we cull. We want animals that thrive, they're healthy, minimum management, minimum costs, and then after that it's the breeding. Animals that breed, generally, as I spoke in the first segment, adaptability results in fertility. So animals that are at home in the environment, they produce well. So the heifers are basically selected on conformation, and then they're put to the bull, and they must conceive as early as possible. We're looking for early maturity in our animals.
Now, Langton, can we talk about animal health? Can you talk about how you manage those diseases? Maybe your routines when it comes to dipping, how you control diseases, and animal health in general to ensure that your herd is clean. There are no parasites or pest or diseases.
Basically, once again, the indigenous breeds are very good at that, and we hardly used to dip before the January disease came to our doorstep. Why? I sell bulls and heifers to people all over the country. My clients are from all over, so I prefer animals to be as hardy as possible and resistant. However, with January disease, we've had to tighten up on the dipping. So we dip weekly. Every week we dip with a spray race, and that's how we keep on top of that. The other diseases, heart water, red water, other tick-borne diseases are not a big problem. And dosing, we dose. If there's a problem, we dose. We don't do blanket dosing. So we manage the calves. If there's a problem with certain parasites and worms, we'll dose, as opposed to blanket treating. Why? Because we're selecting for those hardier animals, more resistant.
Okay, now finally, Langton, as we close, I understand that you also have employees that you are working with. In terms of skills or those characteristics or those attributes that you look at when looking at your herdmen or the people that are going to be helping you in this enterprise, what are those skills that you like, that you admire, that are desirable for a herdman to possess to ensure that he's taking good care of your herd?
Okay, so yes, our labor is very important, and you look for people that have a feel for animals, because that is the most important thing. Someone who has a soft heart for animals, he's got a feeling, because otherwise there are some guys who don't mind if they graze the animals the whole day on the soccer pitch where there's no grass, or just behind in the shady trees. They'll be sleeping and the animals will be starving. So you need someone, that's the most important, I think, is a feel. Someone who cares and feels for your animals, and then of course you've got to also enhance that by giving appropriate remuneration and benefits for the right guys. And we've also just recently sent them on a course last week.
Okay.
On a course, we had a course locally. A vet from Coopers came out, and John Crawford, another farmer, came and explained to them all about herd health, but also about animal psychology and how animals are herded well, how they react to human pressure.
Yes, thank you so much, Langton. That was very detailed. On that note, viewers, we have come to the end of the second segment. We're going to go on a short commercial break. We'll be right back with this and more in the third and final segment. Stay tuned. Thank you, Zimbabwe, for staying tuned to Agriculture and New Directions, Agribusiness. We are here in the third and final segment, and I am still with Collin. We are looking at Boran producing here in Zimbabwe. Now, Collin, where we are standing here, you would find that behind us, there is green vegetation of plants, and where we are standing here, we have the ones that you have already uprooted. What's up with this plant? Why did you uproot it? What are the causes or what are the negatives that come with its existence? And after clearing this land, what are you going to be doing with it?
Okay, thanks, Wadzi. This plant is Lantana camara. It's a declared invasive weed. It's prohibited in Zimbabwe under law. However, if it's left unchecked, it just invades and takes away all pasture. So it's very important for beef producers who have it on their farm. It's also toxic to animals. It causes phytosensitivity, and it can cause death through damage of the liver. So animals graze it in the winter, and that's the main reason why it was declared a prohibited plant. So it's invaded quite badly in this area, so we've started clearing now. And so what we're going to do here, behind this, we're going to plant giant Rhodes grass and stargrass with some pastures, serrato pastures, legume pastures, and but mainly giant roads and stargrass.
Is there a way that a farmer who might be looking at this grass have measures that he can employ at this farm to ensure that they don't even grow? Or even if they are growing, what does he do? Do you clear, or how do you protect your land from the upcoming or the growing of this plant?
If you are fortunate enough and it's not in your district, in your area, then you are. But if it is in your area, what happens is, as soon as a farmer sees it, if it's in small amounts, you should hand control it by hand, dig it out. I've employed labor before. You dig out the roots, and then I measure the roots, the mass, and I pay per mass, per kg. That was one good way of doing it. But if it's in like really invaded, then you have to employ a more expensive method of machinery and stuff to. And the other very good thing is during the rains, you can pull out of the tractor and chain.
Okay, thank you so much, Collin. That was detailed. Now, Collin, can you give us a brief synopsis of the herd that we are now standing in front of?
Okay, these are the young bulls, young bull herd. They'll be up and coming for sale from this year on, and that's basically what it is. They're separated, they're in their own herd. We have to keep them away from the girls' hostel.
Now, Collin, can we talk about the pasture side? I understand that where this herd is, there are pastures, and also on the next, after the fence, we also have pastures, where you were saying that before there was tobacco.
Okay, so this is giant Rhodes grass. Some people use Carambora, but giant Rhodes is better for cattle. There's a giant Rhodes grass pasture. We had 250 weaners. They lived the whole summer on this pasture. That's why it's quite flat. Normally it gets much higher. But yeah, that's what we're going to put in wherever we removed lantana. And then across the fence, there it's what we call a regenerative pasture. We had tobacco, and when the tobacco was stripped, irrigated tobacco crop in February, March, we came in and planted that which is sun hemp, munga, forage sorghum, and then we recently planted some oats just to go through the winter. The whole idea is regenerative farming. It's to the root mass, building the soil. So building the soil is done by having living plants through the dry season, and then when you terminate them, we'll go back into tobacco. It's built up the humus in the soil through the roots.
Can we talk about other supplements of feed that you use to ensure that your bulls remain healthy, and even eating quantities, in terms of quantities of their consumption of feed? Can you equate it to the calves or to the females? What is it like in terms of your feeding regimen?
Okay, so basically we graze on the veld. However, we do have a big problem with fires, so we store a lot of hay. And so in terms of other supplements, we use urea. Urea, we mix our own blocks. Urea, cotton cake, salt is the main ingredients in a block, but we also use indigenous fruits. We use machekecha plant, which is ground, and it's a substitute for maize. And we also use acacia pods, pangara and other acacias that we graze for, that we grind up for protein. The local community collect, and we pay them, and then we grind it. So that's basically what we use in supplements. And then we make a lot of hay for the winter, especially for burnout. In case of emergency burnout, we need that fodder base.
Okay. From which period up to which period would you say this bull is now mature, either to reproduce or to go to the market? What are we looking at in terms of age, in terms of maturity?
So basically, for me to be confident, I prefer to sell 3-year-old bulls, but we have many bulls that I've used as 2-year-olds myself. This Spotty one's the example. He's been used as a 2-year-old bull in my heifers, so they can start working at 2, but when they're going to sell, I prefer them to be a bit more mature, so they can handle a heavier workload.
In terms of water, I understand that you would find that cattle rearing goes hand in hand with having a clean source of water. In terms of water, what are you using as your source of water? I understand that you have a very big head that you are catering for as a farmer. In terms of water, what are your sources of water, and how do you ensure that your cattle have access to clean water to ensure that they are healthy and there are no diseases or parasites? Okay,
now we use dam water. We don't have large volumes of boil water here. So we use dam water, and that once again, the adapted breeds, the tough breeds do well in that system. So they use the river that flows through the farm, and then at the feedlot and at the homestead that's where we use boil water, but mainly it's river water.
In terms of the months of the year, the seasons of the year, which one would you cite as the most critical or the most, that you need to take much care of when it comes to cattle rearing? When I say that we have seasons of bulling, we have seasons of calving, what are we talking of in terms of those seasons? Your sentiments and even your word of advice in general when it comes to the key fundamentals that a farmer needs to take care of when it comes to the bulling season, to the calving season. What are we looking at?
Okay, the bulling season, change your bulling season to the best grass, best season of when the natural felt is at its best, which is basically December, January, February. So that's when I would bull. And then, to calve in that time, December, January, February. So basically the bulling will be February, March, April. And then during the rest of the year, the toughest season, if you want to know, the toughest season is as you approach the rains, before the rains, because there's absolutely no help in the grass from up here in the high veld. So you need to be spot on your maintenance, and you don't want to be calving in that hard dry season, because a cow's maintenance requirement its daily requirement for nutrition doubles after calving. When it's lactating, so it's much cheaper to keep a pregnant cow during that time and not a lactating cow.
Finally, as we close this segment, Collin, your word of advice to the farming community, those who want to get into Boran breeding. As they are watching this episode, you would find that some might want to say, I would want to purchase my cattle, I want to go to the auction sales and purchase my cattle. Your word of advice, your sentiments, your recommendations to those farmers who would want to get into Boran production.
I think the most important word of advice is to know your breeders. Develop a relationship with breeders, talk to them, ask them their advice. A lot of people come to the farm and they don't ask the actual breeder who knows his cattle, knows his herd. So that's go to auctions, you can buy at auctions, and if you've got a limited finances, then start with the upgrading. We have an upgrading program where you start on any cattle, anything what you have. Start with your Mashona, you put Boran bulls on, and you breed up F1, F2, F3. And we call it an appendix system. It's an open herd. We welcome people so that you breed up over 4 generations to pure.
Is there anything you'd want to highlight or talk to us about in terms of the upcoming sale on the 30th of June and the 1st of July? Is there anything that you'd want to say to encourage our audience who are watching, who want to be a part of this community?
Okay, we have a 2-day event this time. Normally it's 1 day, just the auction, but we have a 2-day. We have a fat stock sale the day before, where you can see the fat stock, the results. We've invited top butchers to come and purchase, and there's commercial offers on that sale. That is on the 30th of June, and then on the 1st of July we have our pedigree sale. So yeah, come and join us, meet people, and enjoy what we're putting on. It'll be a big braai meet and a happy occasion, and then we'll meet each other, we'll talk, and then you'll be there to meet many breeders.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Collin, for such a detailed presentation and giving us time to come to your farm and talk to our audience and ourselves in terms of producing Boran cattle here in Zimbabwe.
Thank you.
On that note, viewers, we've come to the end of this week's edition. It was a pleasure having you with us today. Be sure again to join us next week, same place, same time, as we have brand new episodes every Tuesday. From me, your host was Danai Manyore. I'm also on Instagram. It's a W Manyore. And the crew behind the scenes. Have yourselves a fabulous evening. Thank you for watching.